Have you ever found yourself in that English language limbo, where you understand quite a bit?
Hmm.
Maybe you can watch movies with subtitles. Okay, you can handle basic travel conversations. You can generally get by.
Right. You feel functional.
Exactly. But then it just hits you.
Hmm.
This like frustrating feeling of being completely stuck. You realize you're not really improving, even though you felt intermediate for, gosh, maybe years. Does that sound familiar at all? That
I
feeling?
absolutely love that sense of stagnation.
Well, that common, sometimes really baffling experience is exactly what we're diving into today. Our mission here is to unpack some uh, really insightful ideas from a source called Breaking Through the English Intermediate Plateau, which originally came from Learn English with designer JK.
Okay.
We're going to try and uncover why this plateau happens and, maybe more importantly, how you can actually break through it. Think of this deep dive as kind of a shortcut to understanding this really common learning challenge and, crucially, finding some practical ways to get your progress going again.
And what's really vital to recognize right off the bat is that this feeling, this hitting a wall, it's not unique to learning English. Not at all.
Right.
It's actually a super common pattern you see when people acquire lots of different skills. You often get that rapid progress early on, right?
Right.
Everything's
Yeah.
new, you're making big gains.
Yeah, the beginner gains feel great.
Exactly. But then you inevitably hit a phase where that growth just seems to slow way down. And it can genuinely feel like you're just, treading water, putting in the effort, but not really moving forward.
Mm.
The good news, though, is that the source we're digging into today, it offers some really clear, actionable advice. And that's what we want to pull out and shed some light on for you.
Okay, great. So let's unpack this then. Let's jump right into that first part of the source material, which looks at why learners hit this plateau.
Okay.
Like designer JK points out, getting to that intermediate level, it feels pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an achievement.
Totally.
Yeah.
You can understand movies, maybe with subtitles still, but you get it. You can travel, talk to people, have basic conversations. There's this real sense of, okay, I can do this. A kind of comfort.
Sure.
But then, as the source puts it, something happens. You just stop growing.
Mm-hmm.
And the first big reason it highlights, and this one really resonates,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is you stop challenging yourself.
Ah, the comfort zone.
Exactly. Think about it. When you first start learning, everything's new, right?
Mm.
You're actively studying, you're focused, and because it's all so fresh, you improve really fast.
Right.
But once things get, well, comfortable, once you can handle those everyday situations, the source says a lot of learners just stop actively studying. They settle into their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So that means, watching the same kind of videos, reading books at the same level, just repeating the phrases they already know really well.
Yeah, maintain.
Precisely. They're maintaining their English, but they're not actually improving it. It's kind of like a runner who only ever jogs the same easy route. They're active, sure, but they're not building strength for hills or longer distances.
And what's truly fascinating here, and the source explains this well, is how that comfort, which we all naturally seek, right? It becomes this really subtle but powerful trap in learning.
Oh, so.
Well, the source points out that our brains are just incredibly efficient machines. Once a skill feels comfortable, the brain kind of stops dedicating intense new resources to it. Learning almost goes on autopilot.
Ah, okay.
And that's precisely why just maintaining feels like stagnation. Your brain isn't being forced to build those critical new connections or adapt to things it hasn't seen before. If you're not pushing the edges of what you know, well, you're just not creating new pathways or stretching those linguistic muscles enough to grow.
That makes sense. You're just reinforcing the old pathways.
Exactly. And this leads us straight into the second reason the source brings up for hitting that plateau. You focus too much on input, not output.
Oh, yeah. That's something I've definitely seen, and honestly, probably been guilty of myself sometimes.
Yeah.
We spend hours, consuming English, listening to stuff like this, watching shows, reading articles.
Right. Lots of input.
And input is obviously essentially you need it for understanding,
Yeah.
but it's so easy to kind of forget the other half of the equation. Does the source get into why we tend to do that? Like psychologically?
It doesn't dive super deep into the psychology, no, but it really hammers home the practical reality.
Yeah.
Tons of learners spend hours taking English in, but they just don't spend enough time putting it out, speaking or writing.
Right.
And the source makes this really crucial point. To grow, you need to use the language, not just watch it.
Use it, not just watch it. I like that.
Yeah. Language is, at its core, a tool for communication, right?
Yeah.
For getting your own thoughts and ideas out there. The source highlights how input builds your passive side, your understanding, but output, like speaking and writing, that actively engages your brain in retrieving words, constructing sentences.
Mhm.
That's where true fluency gets built. You're forcing your brain not just to understand, but to actually produce, often under pressure. It's like constantly reading cookbooks, but never actually trying to cook anything.
Right. You know all the ingredients, but you can't make the dish.
Exactly. You get the theory, but you lack the hands-on skill.
That's a really powerful distinction. It really makes you think about shifting from being just a recipient to being a creator with the language. Okay, and this next point, I think this one hits home for a lot of people, maybe me included sometimes. The fear of making mistakes.
Ah, yes, the big one.
It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it? You know more English now, so you should feel more confident.
You'd think so.
But the source suggests that at this intermediate stage, you've actually learned enough grammar and vocabulary to start noticing your own errors more.
Right, you're more aware.
And that new awareness, kind of surprisingly, can make you feel shy or nervous. So instead of trying out new phrases or jumping into slightly harder conversations, you just stop taking risks.
Yeah.
You avoid those situations where you might stumble. Can you unpack that a bit? How does that fear actually stop progress?
Well, that fear of mistakes, it's a completely natural hurdle. Happens in all sorts of learning.
Sure.
But the source is really clear that it's something you absolutely have to reframe. And this brings up a really important question about how we see failure when we're learning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are mistakes these terrible things to be avoided no matter what? Or are they actually vital feedback? The source definitely leans hard into the second idea. It stresses that avoiding mistakes means you're basically avoiding learning. If you don't try, you don't mess up, sure, but you also don't get the feedback you need to improve.
So mistakes are data points, really.
Precisely. They show you where to focus. And actually, related to this, the fourth reason it highlights is having no clear plan. The source uses this great analogy. Learning without a goal is like walking without a map.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Right. So many learners at this stage, they don't really track their progress. They don't set specific, small, achievable challenges for themselves. They might practice English by just passively watching something, but they don't really know what they're aiming for or what specific skill they want to get better at next. There's no direction.
That makes so much sense. If you don't have that map, how do you even know if you're going the right way? Or if you're just wandering? Okay, so what does all this mean for you listening right now? If you're feeling that stuckness, it means these are really, really common identifiable patterns. You are definitely not alone in this. So just to recap quickly, we've got stopping challenging yourself, focusing too much on input over output, that often kind of paralyzing fear of making mistakes, and then just not having a clear, actionable plan.
Right. Those are the big hurdles.
But don't worry, because now we get to the really empowering part,
Hmm.
what you can actually do about it.
Okay, let's get practical.
So we've looked at why so many of us seem to hit that intermediate wall. But the real question, the one you're probably asking is, okay, fine, but what can I actually do about it?
Exactly. Time for solutions.
And the good news is our source lays out 5 pretty practical, actionable steps to help you move past this.
Yeah, really concrete stuff. The first tip is to challenge yourself weekly.
Okay, weekly, what does that look like?
Well, the source gives some great tangible examples. It says, basically, each week, make sure you do at least one thing that feels genuinely hard.
Okay, like what?
It could be watching a video without subtitles if you usually depend on them. Or maybe trying to write a short story in English, even if it feels daunting. Or finding and joining a speaking group where you know you'll be pushed a bit outside your comfort zone.
Gotcha. Something that feels like a stretch.
Exactly. The core message here is super clear. Growth lives outside your comfort zone. If you're only ever doing what feels easy, what you already know how to do, you're just not forging those new connections or expanding your abilities. You have to actively seek out those little moments of struggle to really improve.
I think that's such a powerful idea for learning anything, really. It reminds me of, someone training for a race, just doing the same easy jog every day.
Right. They're active, but not progressing towards the goal.
Yeah, they're not building the stamina for the actual race.
Right.
That's hills and varying distances.
Hmm.
You got to push those limits a bit. And the second tip builds right on that, really focusing on the output side. Speak more every day.
Mm-hmm. Crucial.
It gives some really concrete, practical ways to do this, which I think is super helpful because, let's be honest, sometimes the biggest barrier is just feeling like you have no one to talk to.
Absolutely. And the emphasis on active production here is just vital. The source offers some creative solutions, even if you're learning solo.
Like what?
Well, you don't always need a conversation partner. You can literally just talk to yourself. Describe your day out loud, narrate what you're doing as you do it.
Okay, talking to yourself is allowed.
Totally. Another great one is recording your voice on your phone and listening back. Feels awkward at first, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
But it's such a powerful way to catch things in your pronunciation or flow. Using language apps that have speaking components, or if you're feeling a bit braver, joining online meetups where you kind of have to interact.
Right, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. The source is very direct about this. Speaking builds fluency, not just vocabulary. You can know thousands of words, but if you can't pull them out and use them spontaneously when you need them, well, that knowledge is still pretty passive. It's the act of building sentences, even messy ones, that trains your brain for that real-time communication.
So it's all about converting that passive knowledge into an active skill.
Yeah, that feels like a real game changer.
Yeah.
And that leads right into the third tip. Learn actively, not passively.
Mm-hmm. This is key. So many of us are just passive consumers of information these days, right? It's easy to fall into that trap with language learning too, just watching, just listening. The source says we need a big shift here. Can you elaborate on what that active engagement really looks like in practice?
Absolutely. Active learning means really intentional engagement. It's about transforming just, consuming information into genuinely acquiring it. So don't just watch a video, pause it.
Okay.
When you hear new words or cool phrases, don't just think, oh, that's nice. Write them down.
Physically write them?
Yeah, or type them, whatever works. Repeat key phrases out loud, really try to get the sound and rhythm, and maybe most importantly, make a conscious effort to use what you learn in your own sentences pretty quickly, whether you're talking to yourself later or writing something down.
So integrate it right away.
Exactly. Integrate it into your own linguistic toolkit immediately. What's fascinating here is that this kind of active processing, it forces your brain to build stronger, more lasting connections. You're moving way beyond just recognizing something to actually mastering it. You're not just letting it wash over you. You're actively grappling with it and making it yours.
That makes perfect sense. It's like the difference between just hearing a catchy song and actually being able to sing the lyrics yourself.
Good analogy, yeah.
Okay, the fourth tip is also super practical and probably often overlooked. Track your progress.
Ah, yes, the accountability piece.
Right. The source suggests simple things, like writing down your goals, even small ones. Maybe keeping a little English journal where you jot down new words or phrases you learned, or even just noting how many minutes you studied each day or week. Why is tracking actually important beyond just having a record?
Well, it's absolutely vital for motivation and for direction. This isn't just about creating busy work. It genuinely helps you stay focused. It gives you visible proof of your efforts, which can be a massive motivator, especially when you look back and see how far you've actually come.
Okay, so it combats that feeling of not moving.
Exactly. When you feel stuck on a plateau, it's so easy to think, I'm not making any progress. But a journal or some kind of tracking system gives you concrete evidence of all those small, consistent steps you are taking. It makes those abstract goals feel more tangible, helps you keep momentum, builds confidence. It helps you actually see the map of your progress, going back to that earlier analogy.
Right, you can see the path you've walked.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, the fifth tip. This one feels maybe like the most impactful in terms of just mindset. It's accept mistakes as part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. So simple, yet so hard sometimes.
It really is. It seems obvious, but it's often the biggest mental block, isn't it?
It truly is. And the source repeats this really powerful, almost liberating message. You can't improve without failing sometimes. Mistakes are not the enemy. They are your best teachers.
Mistakes are your best teachers. I love that.
It's such a critical reframe. And if we connect this back to the bigger picture, like learning anything new, this shift in mindset is maybe the single most crucial thing for long-term growth, for resilience.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing errors as these like shameful failures to avoid, you start seeing them as invaluable pieces of data. They show you exactly where you need to focus your energy next. It's about embracing the messiness of learning, because that's where the real learning actually happens. It's kind of paradoxically the path of least resistance to growth.
Wow. Okay, so if you've been feeling stuck at that intermediate English level, the big takeaway here is you are absolutely not alone. It's a super common experience.
Very common.
But as we've just unpacked from breaking through the English intermediate plateau, you definitely don't have to stay there. Small, smart steps done consistently really can push you forward.
Absolutely.
The essential advice seems to boil down to two really powerful ideas. Be brave. Be consistent.
Yeah, that sums it up well.
And remember that incredibly potent closing thought from the source. Fluency comes from doing, not just knowing. It's all about taking that knowledge you have and actively applying it, putting it into practice out there in the world.
And maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to kind of chew on as you wrap up this deep dive. Perhaps the biggest shift you can make isn't just about what new words or grammar rules you learn. Maybe it's about how much you truly participate in your own learning journey.
Participate. How do you mean?
It's about moving from being just a passenger, passively observing the language go by, to actually being the driver, actively steering, creating, experimenting with it yourself, embracing every turn, every little bump in the road as part of your journey forward.
Being the driver, not the passenger. That's a fantastic thought to leave you with as you continue on your English learning path. We really hope these insights have given you some powerful tools and maybe some renewed motivation. Keep exploring, keep challenging yourself, and keep making those small, smart steps. You've absolutely got this.